So you can email me. I'd be happy to send that to you. If at any point you're not comfortable with this being recorded, let me know. And as people are joining in, I just want to say hi. My name is Jeanne. It's good to see you all. Well, or at least see your names. So if you are able to turn on the camera, I would greatly appreciate it. It makes it so much nicer for me to see your faces, and I can get that like instant feedback from you to see, how things are resonating for you. But I understand that might be also challenging to turn the camera on. So hi, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to put in the chat box where you're calling from today. It seems to me that your organization is pretty spread out, so I would love to see where you connected from, and I'll just start this by a quick introduction of myself. My name is Jeanne Farrell. I have over a decade of experience in research and development. I used to do research, including in aging research. And I went through a burnout. I lost it all. My health went downhill, and when I burnt out, I wasn't able to really push through or try to get a new job in research, and I had to really reassess what was going on for me in life. It was a very challenging time for me. I had to overcome that, and I also had to recover from the burnout because it really took a toll on my health. And when I recovered, or in order to recover, I engaged in radical self-care. What I mean by radical is that I really changed everything from diet to habits to mindsets and the way I was looking at things. So I take a 360-degree look at that. And one of the habits that I created while I was recovering from burnout is a mindfulness practice. And I can honestly say now, after a few years of practicing mindfulness, that it has changed my life. I am a different person now than I was when I burnt out, and that's greatly as a consequence of my mindfulness practice. And today we'll talk about mindfulness, and especially in the context of stress management and how you could use mindfulness in order to support yourself in responding to stress. Sorry, you can hear my little dog barking. He's just out the window, so sorry about that. So as everybody's joining us, hi everyone, thank you for being here. Again, if you would like to put in the chat box where you're connecting from, and if you have a chance to turn the camera on so I can see your face and how you seem to respond to this webinar that I'm going to be sharing with you. Sarah, Colorado, thanks for sharing, Sarah. Hi, welcome. Shiana from New York, great. Wow, we have people from Mexico, New York, Delhi, India. Wow, I didn't realize this crowd was so international. That's amazing. Thank you so much all for being here, connecting from different places, different time zone. So it's wonderful. What a great crowd. That's great. Thanks, everyone. So we'll jump into the webinar. I prepared a presentation for you today. So let me just take a moment to share my screen. And we'll look at using mindfulness to buffer against stress. And before we jump right into it, I want to open this time together with an invitation that I extend to you. An invitation to slow down. I'm sure you're all very busy. There's a lot going on during your days. You probably have pressure, deadlines, a lot in your mind. I want to ask you if you could, for the next 40 minutes that we're going to spend together, to take a moment to slow down and be present so we can together look at the quality of our own mind. And to help you sort of get grounded, I would like to first invite you into a mindfulness moment. So when you're ready, we're gonna get into a mindfulness practice together. So for that, all you have to do is find a posture that's comfortable for you. It can be standing or sitting. It's absolutely up to you. Whatever's comfortable, find a posture that is reasonably straight, so that creates some alertness while you keep your shoulders relaxed. If you want to take a moment and wiggle your neck, see if there's any tension in there, and try to let go of that. And when you're ready and you feel like you found a posture that is relaxed but alert, please feel free to close your eyes or keep them open. If you keep them open, find a way to have a soft gaze with your attention within. And we're going to start by turning towards our body. Feel your feet touching the ground. If you're sitting or standing too, feel the gravity pulling you down. Feel the gravity grounding you. Feel free to take a deep breath and check in with yourself what might be going on in the belly. In your chest. Maybe you can feel your heart beating. You can wiggle your fingers and get in touch with the feelings and sensations in your hands. Your arms, your legs. Now connect with your breath. Without trying to change it, feel your body expand on the inhale. And your shoulders or your belly fall on the exhale. Breathe in, know that you're breathing in. Breathe out, know that you're breathing out. Now please become aware of your mind with curiosity and without judgment. See if there's any mood present. What might be the feeling tone in your mind right now? If you find yourself being occupied by your own thoughts, simply notice that. And accept your experience. When you're ready, take a moment to formulate an intention to be present for the next 30 minutes we'll spend together. Resolve to take this moment to look at the quality of your own mind. In a moment, I'll bring this mindfulness to a close. Please notice if anything has shifted within yourself, and take a moment to appreciate yourself if you're taking this time to slow down. And when you're ready, feel free to open your eyes and come back to this presentation within the group. If you would want to share what might have shifted for you through the mindfulness practice, I would love to read that in the chat box. Feel free to, express yourself using that throughout the webinar. And so we're going to jump into the presentation now. And when it comes to mindfulness, I like to open things up with this quote from John Milton. He wrote that in Paradise Lost in the 1700s. He said, "The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven." I love this quote because I think it perfectly captures the idea that we don't really experience reality in a very objective manner. We experience reality in a way that that we are. If we're angry, then that has a whole different set of feelings and tones than if we're calm, and this tends to sort of cloud the way we perceive things around us. I would like to share with you a definition of mindfulness that I really like. Before I do that, what is your definition of mindfulness? If you would be able to please throw it in the chat box. When I say mindfulness, for you, what comes to mind? What does that mean to you? Being aware, being fully present, awareness. Absolutely. Yes, mindfulness is about being present to our experience, being aware of what's going on with us, tuning into your thoughts and feelings in the moment, says Shanna. Yeah, absolutely. Getting in touch with what's going on inside and outside in our environment. Chris says, aware of what you're sensing and feeling in the moment. Yeah, absolutely. You're all right about that. I would absolutely use all those words to define mindfulness as well. So you guys are already pretty versed in that. I would like to submit to you this definition just because it emphasizes on a couple of different things that I find really important. Intentionally paying attention here and now. So here's the component about presence and awareness. With kindness and curiosity. That's the one I would like for you to take out today. Kindness and curiosity so that you can choose your behavior. The reason I love this definition is because there's this idea that there is an attitude. So you're not only aware and present to what's going on, you also meet what is going on for you with that kindness and curiosity. That means without judgment and without getting frustrated with yourself, or making sure that you make room for whatever's going on if we're talking about emotional reactions, so that you can choose your behavior. And that is a very important concept for this presentation today, because we'll get into this idea that with mindfulness, you can build what is called spacious awareness, which is sort of a space between what's going on with you. Maybe you have an emotional reaction, and before you get on and react and behave, you have this like buffer time that mindfulness can create for you, because you become aware of what's going on so that you can choose your behavior. And I'm sure you'll be able to relate to that. We're all going through our days, and in our relationships with our interactions with other people, what can happen that triggers emotion? And if you're too reactive, you might be quick to, and I've done that in the past. Like I want to make that clear. Before I burnt out, one of my reactions is becoming irritable, and I could snap at people. I could become really aggressive. I wasn't always aware that this was happening, but I was stressed out, and someone would say something. I'm like, oh my God, you're just adding something to my plate. It feels overwhelming, and I would be like really aggressive. A mindfulness practice can, because it creates this awareness of this emotional response going on with you, you can take a moment to choose how you will respond to the situation or this person. And in just a moment, we'll get into a self-awareness exercise that I will guide you guys through. If for that someone was able to come on live to have a little conversation with me, that would make it a lot more engaging. And we'll go through more awareness of what stress can bring up for you. And we'll get into that in a more practical way in a minute. Before we get to that, I will talk about what mindfulness is. So we just talked about what mindfulness is in theory. We'll talk about what mindfulness is in practice. I will then show you what mindfulness can do as far as its effect on our health and wellness. As a practice, I would like for you to bring away with you today that just as much as you would go to the gym to train your body, strengthen the muscles, and have this like energy and being healthier, you can use a mindfulness practice in order to train the mind, strengthen the mind. And the practice is about noticing, accepting, and bringing your attention back to what is going on for you in the present moment. Some example of mindfulness practices, you're probably aware, and you probably have in mind this idea of the person sitting still for minutes on, and the silence retreat and all of that. And that's definitely one way to do it, but that's not the only way to do it. And I would like to emphasize for you guys today that it doesn't have to be so formal, and it doesn't have to be for like 20 or 30 minutes at a time. You can take a moment to breathe in a mindful way, and only like 3 cycles of breath, which could be like a minute or two, would have an incredibly rejuvenating effect on your nervous system. I guided you through a mindfulness practice in the beginning of this session that use all of these techniques. Body scan and getting in touch with what's going on with your body, taking a moment to pause and take stock of what's going on in your environment, mindful breathing. So all of that is part of a mindfulness practice. What happens when you're able to engage in a regular mindfulness practice? Well, this study that was published in 2011 showed that with only 8 weeks, so that's 2 months of practicing mindfulness every day, you're able to visualize, so remodeling in the brain. There are restructuring happening through the practice of mindfulness that is so profound that you can pick it up on a brain scan. And like the 2 parts are highlighted on this slide are a decreased density of the amygdala, which is a part of your brain that is responsible for emotions, in particular fear, anxiety, and stress, and an increased density of the hippocampus, which is the part of your brain responsible for learning and memory, but also self-awareness and compassion. So what happens with a mindfulness practice with only 2 months is that your brain starts creating new pathways that change your experience, and you experience less anxiety and stress, and better learning and memory, and you feel more compassion towards yourself and others. Research shows that regular mindfulness practice increases mental and emotional and physical health, strengthens intuition, creativity, innovation, increases flow and performance, improves mental clarity, you can make better decisions, increase energy, and improves sleep. And today we will really look at how it reduces stress and addiction, well, stress in particular. And I don't know about you, but the first time I was introduced to this slide, I was like, wow, that sounds almost too good to be true. You do one thing and then all of these improve. And I know it sounds kind of hard to believe, but I have to say that looking back with my own experience, I can definitely like check off these boxes, and definitely training the mind can have all of these downstream effects. So I would really encourage you to start a mindfulness practice if you don't have one already. Today we're going to mostly spend some time looking at how mindfulness can help us recognize stress early. And for that, I will introduce you to the concept of stress signature. And it's this idea that stress comes up in a physical way for us, everybody, but for everyone, it's going to look a little different. So this is what's called the stress signature. And people commonly report upper chest breathing, shallow breathing, racing thoughts, feeling depleted, having a lack of energy, feeling irritable, and feeling wired but tired. But also your sleep is affected, and you sleep, you get really poor sleep from stress. So I would really like to have someone come on with me. If you could unmute and turn your camera on. Please, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If someone would come on live, I would like to guide you guys through a self-awareness exercise. So I will just simply ask you to bring to mind a very stressful situation or a very stressful day, something very stressful that happened to you in the past that is vivid enough. And if you could take a moment to close your eyes and bring that situation to mind and connect with your body. Try and recall the feelings and sensations that were happening for you. What is it that you are feeling? Where is that located? Please use a chat box to share what's coming up for you. What was going on in your belly, in your stomach? Were you able to feel anything on your chest, in your chest? Any tension in your muscles? And if it's hard for you to get back into those feelings and sensations in the body, maybe you can recall instead your mood and where you're feeling the emotions. Whether like anger, frustration, did you feel overwhelmed? Did you feel upset in any way? It was hard to breathe. Definitely had shallow breathing. Thanks, Michelle. And tired but wired. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so tired but wired, like that happens a lot when you have deadlines and a lot of stress around, having to bring some work to your team, and maybe you're running on slow, and you have a hard time sleeping, and so all of that. And Well, if you're able to recall that, I'm glad, and thank you very much for taking the time to do this exercise for you together. The reason I brought this up is because stress is, coming up differently for everyone. And I want to remind you right now of this definition that I shared in the beginning of mindfulness as intentionally paying attention here and now with kindness and curiosity so that you can choose your behavior. I don't know about you, but back when I wasn't really skilled in recognizing stress in my life and dealing with it, I didn't have the right tools to cope with it. I tended to brush it up. I was not paying attention to those body sensations, and they were there. They're absolutely present. But I didn't pay attention to that, and I certainly did not take the time to breathe, to take a moment for me. And I regret it. I don't know about you, but when I take a moment to breathe and take care of myself, it's easier for me to think about how I'm going to respond to an email, a conversation that I had, or a situation that's presenting. And being able to choose your behavior gives you that time to be more in line with who you are and who you want to be, and respond in a way that is more according to your values. And perhaps when it comes to your workplace, in a way that will be able to foster kindness, empathy. And it can be really hard to do that in the moment when we're reacting. Now I want to get into more practical things for you to use. I really love sharing that with people because I learned that we all have a buffer against stress. And if you look at this slide, I tried to represent the buffer as those blue lines, and you can think about it as a tank. So this buffer tank is there for you, and every time you get a stressful event, something that stresses you out, it kind of deplete the tank. The tank gets a little less full, and in order to buffer against stress, you need to refill the tank, and that's what we call renewal activities. By engaging in renewal activities, we refill that buffer tank. And research has shown, very interestingly, that it's the frequency and the variety at which we renew and refill that tank that can protect us against damaging stress. So frequency and variety in renewal activities are key. What do I call renewal activities? Well, you please feel free to throw in the chat box what you do that make you feel better, refills your tank, and renew you. Here's a list of things that people commonly use: meditation, moderate exercise, yoga, prayers to your loving God, being hopeful about the future. Oh, sorry. Talking with someone that you love, taking care of others, playing with your pet, your cat, your dog, spending time in nature, laughing, being playful. Maybe some of them are things that you already do, or that you realize today you're not doing enough and would want to, reconnect with. What is it that you do that refills your tank? Salma says she goes for a run, she likes to play tennis and talk to her mother. Yeah, a lot of movement. And what about time outside, like being in the sun, taking a moment to breathe? What do you guys do to refill your tank? And time with pets, walk in time in nature. Thank you, Chris, for saying that too. And again, I want to repeat that it's really about doing that often and doing a lot of different things that would help you create that buffer against damaging stress. Mirka says gardening, going for a walk, getting a manicure. Yeah, absolutely. Self-care, running, walking in the park. Yeah. Thank you for sharing what you do, your strategies to refill your buffer tank. I want to show you this picture. I think of this as a virtuous Zen circle. So now that you're more aware of your personal stress signature, like for me, it shows up as irritability. If I start being irritable with my husband for no good reason, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, something's going on. I need to take care of that. So I know my stress signature comes as irritability. I have this awareness, and when it comes up, I don't just engage in a way with my husband where it's like I'm irritable and we fight and, no, I realize I'm like, oh, I'm feeling this way. Something must be going on. I take a moment to take stock. And this awareness, I really would like for you to frame it as an invitation to care for yourself, an invitation to go and take a moment to do this renewal activity. And for you, it might be something completely different than for me. Everybody's gonna have their own way to engage in renewal, but you want to engage frequently, and you want to use many different ways to renew your buffer tank. And how does that relate to mindfulness? Maybe at this point you're a little lost in the presentation. Well, there's this awareness component, of course, but I want to spend time a minute in like showing you what mindfulness does to your mind, so that it becomes clear the way mindfulness supports spacious awareness and the time to choose your behavior. I love this picture. You might have seen on the internet. So this is the difference between a mindful and a mindful. So here, the mindful, the dog is the one who's mindful. He is virtually identical to its experience. You see, the dog's walking in nature. He sees the trees and the sun's shining. Nothing's going on. He's incredibly present. The person who's walking with the dog has its mind full with all the things that we spend our time thinking about, right? Did I pay the bills? And there's a song you heard in the car this morning when you were commuting, still playing in your mind. You gotta take care of your laptop, and there's this presentation coming. Oh, did you do your laundry? Take things that we're occupied every day, and it's absolutely normal, and it's part of our human experience, but we don't necessarily realize that it's going on in your mind, in the back of your mind all the time. That's exhausting. That takes a lot of your mental space. And I want you to bring your attention to the fact that we have 12 to 60,000 thoughts per day. And unfortunately, 2/3 of those thoughts are either neutral or negative thoughts. We think about ourselves in negative ways, like, oh, I didn't pay the bill, I'm so stupid, I forgot. And there's so many so much judgment that comes through, and we don't necessarily realize that even. And if you would please, in the chat box, I put this little quiz for you there. Some studies have tried to estimate how much of the time we're not present to your current experience. In your guess, what is that? Is it 9 to 28% of the time? Is it 32 to 51% of the time, or is it 47 to 66% of the time? Sarah says C, 47 to 66% of the time. So does Michelle, so does Acta. Look at that. Wow, you guys are guessing mostly the bigger numbers, 47 to 66% of the time. And yeah, thanks all for trying to take a guess at this. So the numbers are coming from a study in Mayo Clinic and a study at Harvard, and they each had a different number. Mayo estimated 47% of the time, and Harvard 66% of the time. So people who guess C are right on the nose. And of course, this might be difficult to accurately estimate. It's hard to measure that in people. But that said, it's quite possible that we are not present to your experience half to 2/3 of the time. And if we're not present, then what are we doing? Well, it turns out we spend a lot of time in these 3 categories. Worrying about the future, and I'm not talking about planning here, I'm talking about worrying. So, and often that's things that are out of our control. and stressing out about how things are gonna go. We spend a lot of time replaying the past. Oh, I should have said that in this conversation, or oh, I'm not sure I did this well. It takes a lot of your mental energy. And finally, judging others and judging yourselves. And judging is part of our makeup. We're wired to be judging, and to some extent, it's part of our survival mechanism. But we can tend to do that in a way that's very negative and not very healthy. And what's wrong with all of that is that it might be happening in the back of our mind, kind of in automatic pilot, and we're not necessarily realizing. But it can also create some suffering, worrying, stress, and when we judge, we might see ourselves as, not as adequate. Most people, and myself included, we're not very compassionate towards ourselves. And I want to again mention that with mindfulness, we're able to take a step back and observe those thoughts that are difficult, those emotions, and our experience. We can be more present to what's going on. If you're present to what's going on for you and aware, you're not caught up as much in your thoughts and all of those things that are going on automatically. And instead of being lost in your thoughts and identical with them, we can relate to those thoughts in a way that's curious and kind. We can redirect our energy and our attention to the present moment, and we can choose our behavior. If you have any reaction, any comment, any question, please put that in the chat box so I can see it, or I don't know if there's a Q&A box. No. But please feel free to let me know what comes up for you as I mention all of that. So now that we've discussed this part, I would really like to spend a moment to share a few tips on how to create a regular practice. If you here in the room are someone who has a mindfulness practice, feel free to share what's working for you. I'd love to hear that. And if not, here are my tips. Again, I'm a coach. I'm trained in behavior change, so I'm going to share with you some tips that I know work. Maureen says drawing. Drawing what brings you to the present moment and really help you get in that mindfulness state. That's interesting, Maureen. So tip number one, formulate your intention. That means know why you want to practice mindfulness. Is it that you want to become less reactive and have more peace in your relationship or relationships? Is it that you want to harness your full attention and be more performant at work or more efficient? Is it that you are not sleeping so well and want to use mindfulness as a way to relax before you go to bed? Whatever it is, find something that is important to you. That's your intention. Why do you want to practice? Formulate that. I would encourage you to even write it down and become clear on that. The second step would be to find a guided practice. And on the bottom of the slide, I put some suggestions. These are apps that you can put on your phone: Insight Timer, Headspace, 10% Happier, and Waking Up by Sam Harris, if you're familiar with his work. His app is phenomenal to get into mindfulness practice. He's got a 50 lesson plan that you can follow every day. So that really gets you into this rhythm. But I want to also mention to you, I'm going to put that in the chat box. There is this teacher whom I adore. Her name is Tara Brach. She's got a podcast that you can access really easily. She's got lots of guided meditation that are simply accessible on YouTube. She's got a very soothing voice, and I really love that. So feel free to check Tara Brach on YouTube and pick a guided meditation that feels good for you. I would encourage you to start small. So if you can find one that's a couple of minutes, that's a great spot to start. And when you feel like you have found a meditation that works for you, schedule that. Put that in your calendar, or maybe do it attached to another habit you already have. Maybe you journal every day, or maybe you have a cup of coffee when you start the morning. Can you couple that habit that you already have with your meditation practice? And if you just do that 2 minutes and like start building this new habit. And finally, I would encourage you to reward yourself if you're able to follow through for 2 days, 3 days, 7 days. Make this event an event. Like, congratulate yourself for having done that, and reward yourself in whatever way feels good for you. Maybe you want to take yourself out for your coffee. Maybe you want to buy yourself some nice flowers, whatever it is. And maybe, share with some friends. And if you're interested in your organization to create more mindfulness, how can you build an accountability group? Maybe you want to get together and have that mindfulness practice. If you want to build that as a habit in your life and make it part of your everyday life for years to come, why not work with a coach, someone like me who was able to help people create habits and make changes in their life to become healthier. We're almost at the end of our presentation today, so let me just recap with a couple of takeaways that I would really like for you to go out with. I would like for you to remember that being mindful of early signs of stress for you, the way stress shows up for you, can be an invitation for self-care, and that it can help you choose how to respond to that situation that brings stress. And I would like for you to remember that frequent and various activities for renewal are more efficient. So take multiple pauses during the day. Give yourself permission to take a break, because you'll be able to show up in your work in a way that is more productive. You'll be able to show up in your relationships in a way that builds more empathy. And I can bet that you will be able to be the kind of person you want to be. And that is the end of my presentation. I want to thank you very much for the time we spent together today. Thank you for participating with the chat box. We have a couple of minutes. If anyone has questions, please bring them on. And I would encourage you to find me on LinkedIn, and feel free to email me. Tell me what's going on for you. In which way stress a struggle, a challenge for you. And let me know if you need more support, more help, and if you're interested in bringing more mindfulness into your life. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being present. And thanks to everyone who participated in this. Thank you so much. And may you have a mindful day. Bye. Thank you.